Last year, a man who called himself Clark Rockefeller was arrested for allegedly kidnapping his own daughter. Today, his ex-wife is expected back in court to explain why she married a man she never really knew. CBS News correspondent Bianca Solorzano has the story.
Sandra Boss, the ex-wife of accused kidnapper Clark Rockefeller, spoke for the first time in a Boston courtroom Monday about the man she never fully knew.
Very intelligent, very polite, could talk about anything. I mean, really interesting. And, also really very charming.
She said she never doubted his stories, including being related to the famous Rockefeller family.
He told me that his parents were George Rockefeller and Mary Roberts. He told me that his parents had been killed together in a car accident when he was 18.
But Boss says shortly after they married, he became extremely controlling.
The defendant, particularly in the early years, was unhappy with the limited amount that I earned at my job and put a lot of pressure on me about it.
The couple had a daughter in 2001, but after years of a strained marriage, Boss filed for divorce in 2007 and began to unravel her then husband's secret.
The defendant was not the person he'd said he was, and that I asked if I could have full custody of Ray at that time.
Christian Carl Gerherstreiter stands accused of kidnapping their daughter and giving police a fake name. Gerherstreiter is pleading not guilty by reason of insanity. Bianca Solorzano, CBS News, New York.
Joining us from Boston now is Beth Karras, a former Manhattan district attorney who's now a correspondent for the show In Session on True TV. Good morning, Beth.
Good morning, Maggie.
Watching that piece and watching the testimony, I was struck by the fact that Sandra Boss called her ex-husband the defendant, never once mentioned him by name. What do you make of that?
Never once. You're absolutely right. She only looked over at him when she was asked to make the in-court identification, which every witness who testifies in a trial and knows and has to identify the person on trial will do. She glanced over at him and acknowledged that he was her former husband. A couple times she called him my former husband, but every other time the defendant, not Clark, the person she knew him as, never addressed him by name, and certainly there was no fondness for this man in the courtroom. He would look at her, though. I mean, he seemed to be watching her testimony pretty closely.
Many people wondered how this wife could have been duped for so long. Do you think that's more understandable now that we've heard her speak about her marriage?
Oh, absolutely. This man was a master manipulator. And the defense isn't disagreeing with this. They say it's all part of his mental illness. This is a man who used many aliases over the years. And he lived for several years in California under the name of Christopher Chichester. There's a grand jury that is hearing evidence against him right now in a double homicide. He may be indicted for homicide, killing a couple that probably was going to expose him.
Is her testimony playing well then for his insanity defense?
Well, I don't know. At this point, she hasn't been cross-examined, and she says she never saw any signs of delusion or hallucination or memory problems in him. He just seems to be a manipulator.
In general, give me an opinion of how you think this trial is going and what you think will happen next.
Well, his other ex-wife is going to testify today after this one finishes her cross-examination. That's the woman he married in 1981 to get a green card. So she'll talk about being duped at that time as well.
It's fascinating and sad. Beth Karras, thank you.
My pleasure.